Coming up on Tech News Weekly, Jason, Howell, and I are back in the studio. Super excited about that. We start by talking to Rene Ritchie of youtube.com/Rene Ritchie about Apple's upcoming peak performance event. And he gives us a sneak peek of his predictions on what we can expect. Then Sean Hollister of The Verge drives in to tell us about the Steam Deck from Valve. He's got it in hand and gives us the lowdown on that device. Before we head in with our stories of the week, I talk about Twitter's Birdwatch and how it's sort of kind of expanding to more folks, and we get a hands-on review of the OnePlus Buds Z2 from Jason Howell. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Tech News Weekly, episode 224, recorded Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like leaving your laptop exposed at the coffee shop table while you run to the bathroom. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/TNW and get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package.
And by IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV has everything you need to level up your IT skills while you enjoy the journey. Visit itpro.tv/TNW for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code TNW30 at checkout.
And by Progress. Progress has the technology you need to secure, analyze, and integrate your applications, network, and processes. Find out more and download a free trial at progress.com/twit.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Weekly, the show where every week we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news. Coming to you live from the TWiT studios, I am Mikah, Sargent.
I'm Jason Howell, and I want to welcome the 50 people in the audience. You guys, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much for being here.
Actually, it's just 3 of us. Us two, and then Anthony behind the desk. But that's close enough for me.
That's one more audience member. Actually, 2 more audience members at a time than we usually have.
Totally.
My dogs don't count, so they just stare and just are like, why can't we sit on his lap? Hey, there's Burke.
And there's Burke. So now we've got 4. All right, we're doing good now.
Now it feels like a true show. My last comedy performance, fewer people than this. Anyway, let's kick things off with a fun story. Some of you may have heard that Apple's event is right around the corner. We had kind of thought that there was going to be an event on this coming Tuesday, March 8th, but Apple didn't announce it at the normal date and time that it does, which is usually on the Tuesday before the event around 9 a.m. Pacific time. So when that time passed, folks thought, hey, maybe because of what's going on between Ukraine and Russia, that could be why Apple's maybe not doing it. Maybe there are some supply chain things, who knows, but maybe there won't be an event on March 8th. It would be the Tuesday following that. However, the next day, several of us received emails that said, hey, look, there is going to be an Apple event on March 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific, where the tagline was Peak Performance, and that's P-E-E-K as opposed to P-E-A-K, Performance. Joining us today to give us a prediction preview of the upcoming Apple event is Rene Ritchie. Welcome back to the show, Rene.
Always great being here. It's great to see you and Jason and everybody live.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. All right, so let's kick things off with the sort of fun thing that folks do. I'm curious, have you seen any reactions to the Peak Performance title and people kind of trying to read what this invite might be giving a hint, at what this invite might be giving a hint? Anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy it's not peak as an angry performance, because that would be a whole different show. English being a wonderful language. Yeah, I mean, every time just to be clear, Apple's graphics design department doesn't know anything about what's in the event. They just get they just get given a list of themes from the marketing department, and they make up a cool image. And sometimes in hindsight, it's really accurate, and sometimes in hindsight, it's not. And this time, it's really like a logo, that's sort of like broadcast waving sound streaming out of the Apple logo. But it's a very typical Apple logo. It is dark instead of bright. Like last year, for the April event, it was a white background and the typical 6 colors of the Apple logo. This time it's black background, really dark logos, and that to me is like pro. Everything Apple does that's dark is pro. Usually the iPhone is bright, and then the iPhone Pro is the nighttime comes down, and Pro interfaces are dark where the other ones are more silver. Pro devices are silver, are like space gray when the consumer devices are more silver. So maybe it gives us a hint that they're going to have some Pro stuff there, but it's always hard to tell, Mikah. I just love that every year, no matter what, every event, no matter what, people think, oh, the glasses are coming. Finally, the glasses are coming.
But there's something to the perspective of this invite. That's the thing that gets me, right? The animated invite, it's almost like it moves in a very VR sort of way. Yeah. I don't know. And maybe I've just spent too much time inside of a VR goggle, but
they've been doing that though since for the last 2 years. They make an AR augmented reality version of whatever logo image they have, and you can move around it and go in and out in 3 dimensions. And then Greg Joswiak, their senior vice president of marketing, does his from like the top of Apple Park or the roof of the Ring or the Steve Jobs Theater just to flex. And everybody goes, "Oh wow, it's AR. It's they must be doing it this time." But it's really just to like make a fun little Easter egg for everybody.
They've been doing the AR invite for a while. In fact, I'll keep talking while Anthony might be able to go over to my Twitter and see. I took a photo of the augmented reality invite Easter egg dealie, sort of sitting in the background of the shot that I do whenever I'm working from home. So I want to look less at that and more at the tagline here, peak performance. I like this tagline because this is a clever way. There's the image if you're watching. So essentially, you've got that fun Portal Apple logo next to a Dunder Mifflin Dundee Award from The Office. And yeah, that was a fun little thing. So
this is the most Mikah photo I've ever seen.
Right? You could go to Apple's website, go to the Apple events page, and basically you just tap on the logo, and then anyone with at least an iPhone iPad, those devices will be able to pull that up and do it in their home. But the peak performance, what I think is clever about this is this could be any of Apple's devices. When they come out with a new device, the performance is improved. So to have this look at the new performance, that could apply to anything. And yeah, I don't think that, personally, don't think this has anything to do. I know Leo kind of had a thought that maybe this could have something to do because of the word peak, AR, VR. I still think we're out from that. I think this was just like a look at the next level of performance that we're going to be bringing to the Mac. Although the iPhone SE, I mean, that is not traditionally a performance device. So do we still think that the iPhone SE is going to be one of the devices announced at this event?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways that could go. And, I agree with you. I think the VR headset is September at the earliest, maybe next year. The AR glasses are much further out, maybe 3 years out. So those, I think, Apple's going to keep teasing them because they see AR and VR as like LCD and OLED. They're not specific products. They're things that are going to be in the next decade of products. So they don't mind talking about them, but we'll see different products roll out over the years for those. For the iPhone SE, I think the peak performance is going to translate like 3 ways. One is just like everything is going to get a little bit better. They could put out the iPhone SE and the iPad Air 5 in press releases. Nobody would blink. They could also do them as very short segments, the way they've been doing the $329 iPad, where it gets like 3 minutes. The slide has mostly iOS features on it, not really, because you can't fill it out with just the new hardware features. But you get 5G across the line, which is better performance. You get A15 Bionic across the line, which is better performance. And then we get a look at M2 probably because we're 18 months out of M1, and that's not pro level performance, but much better entry level performance for everybody.
Nice. So let's talk about updates to, you mentioned the iPad. What are the expectations for an iPad at this event?
Yeah, so we got the iPad Air, got its redesign in 2020 at the September event, and then the iPad Mini got the same redesign last year at the 2021 event, but it also got 5G and it got the A15, and those are two things the Air doesn't have. So I think it's really about bringing that up to par, getting 5G across the line, which is helpful. I mean, like, not everybody has great 5G service, but they're retiring 3G bands, and even the low spectrum 5G, the low band 5G, which isn't as fast as even LTE, it is much better range, so it helps people who've just never been delivered on the promise of LTE, and then mid-band is getting better and better, which is a bit faster, but again, just brings service to more people. So I think that is really going to be helpful, especially over the next couple of years. And then that chipset is just the latest, greatest chipset, so you're going to be getting another 5 years of updates. It'll handle another 5 years of updates when you buy it, and that's important value for people.
Mm-hmm. Now, the big kahuna, the thing that I know many of us are looking forward to are updates to the Mac lineup. Can you talk about what different Macs we could see at this event and sort of what is expected in terms of performance as we peak at this event?
Yeah, absolutely. So Apple just started rolling out their Pro Silicon. We saw that with the M1 Pro and the M1 Max last October in the new MacBook Pros. And that needs to roll out across the Mac Minis. The high-end Mac Mini is still on Intel, across the iMacs because the high-end iMac is still on Intel, and the Mac Pro is still on Intel. So they've got to do all those three. I think at least we'll see the Mac Mini, if nothing else, this year. So if this month, we'll see the Mac Mini on the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, which, like, the Alex Lindsay types are just going to light up all over. And then probably the iMac Pro and the Mac Pro at WWDC, and later. And then M2, which is basically, M1 was based on the A14 Bionic, and M2 is probably going to be based on the A15. And that means the efficiency cores are going to be quite a bit faster. The performance cores are going to be quite a bit more efficient. And the graphics cores are way, way better. Twice the system level cache. So it is a faster, cooler chip. It's not going to have as many cores as the Pro machines. That's the big differentiator, is they have still, 8 cores instead of 10 and another 8 cores instead of 32 that you get on the M1 Max. So they're not going to be great for like multi-threaded Pro workloads, but they'll be much better, much cooler, much more efficient for devices like a colorful Mac Mini, or, maybe towards the end of the year, a whole new redesigned smaller MacBook Air.
And then we also have it's likely that we'll see the official launch date, the introduction of the next version of iOS 15. And I want to be clear, this is not the time whenever we'll see iOS 16. It's just simply a point release. But this release has quite a few different features in it that I know I have been testing. My co-host on iOS Today, Rosemary Orchard, has been testing. What can folks look forward to in the next version of iOS? And do we think that the iPhone SE, should that be announced, that launch date will correspond with the launch date of the next version of iOS?
My guess is that we'll get the new versions of iOS, iPadOS on that day. They'll just be, okay. I don't know whether they're going to say it, but they'll just make them available, because the last beta was pretty much felt like a release candidate. I don't know if they have to give developers like a week or something just to finalize it, but to me, that's just good to go. And shipping the new devices on that, when it's not like the new iPhone gets like 2 weeks. The pre-order is going to be 2 weeks. Almost everything else, Apple says they're available today. Go pre-order it. We're living in the 2020s, so who knows exactly what the supply chains look like, and who knows if you don't order the minute they're available, how long that's going to project out to. But I think a lot of stuff is going to hit us right away at the event.
All right. Well, Rene Ritchie, of course, always appreciate you joining us here on Tech News Weekly. Of course, folks can head to youtube.com/Rene Ritchie to check out your great work. Is there anywhere else they should go to follow you online?
MacBreak Weekly right here on TWiT every Tuesday with Andy Anatko, Leo, and Alex Lindsay.
Awesome. Thank you, Rene. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Rene.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you.
Good to see you, too. We'll see you soon. All right, up next, this Steam Deck. Was it worth the wait? Kind of sounds like maybe a little bit not. I don't know, but people are really excited about it. So we're going to talk about it with Sean Hollister from The Verge. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by the VPN that I use, ExpressVPN. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like leaving your laptop exposed at the coffee shop table, right? Your computer's open, your laptop's open, whatever, and you decide, I need to go to the bathroom. And then you assume that things are going to be fine, right? But what if one day you come back from the bathroom and you realize it's gone? Things are not fine. Well, you can apply that to, browsing the web. And that's why a VPN is very useful. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, cafes, hotels, airports, that sort of thing, any hacker that happens to be on the same network can actually gain access to your personal data. So you can think, like what kind of data? You've got your passwords, your financial details, whatever you have on that device could be accessible on that network. And it doesn't take very much technical knowledge to make that happen. Just some cheap hardware. Actually, a smart 12-year-old could actually do it. These things are really easy to look up and to execute. Your data is valuable. Hackers can actually make up to $1,000 per person selling personal information on the dark web. That's crazy. So why ExpressVPN itself? Well, they've got something called the encrypted tunnel. It creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet, so hackers can't steal your sensitive data. That's the beauty of a VPN. It's super secure. It's going to take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. It's also very easy to use. This is one of the things I love most about ExpressVPN because I've used VPNs in the past that were not easy to use. With ExpressVPN, you just fire up the app, you click one button, and you're protected. It's literally that simple. And it works on all devices, phones, laptops, routers, and so much more. I actually have ExpressVPN on my router at home. So it's like always running, so always protected. And, you can stay secure at home and on the go as a result. I love ExpressVPN, been using it for years at this point. And it's worth checking out because I think the thing that I've realized, aside from the ease of use, is that it doesn't slow me down on the things that I want to do. Another thing that I noticed with other VPNs. I don't experience that with ExpressVPN. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/TNW. That is, and I'll spell it out, EXPRESS VPN, expressvpn.com/TNW. And you can get an extra 3 months free when you go to that URL. It also lets them know that you heard about it through Tech News Weekly. expressvpn.com/TNW. And we thank them for their support of this show. All right, gamers have been super excited about the release of Valve's Steam Deck for quite a while. Been hearing about it for a long time. And in the past week, we've actually seen some of these reviews finally hitting the web for the first time. After all of this wait, does it actually live up to its promise, what people are really excited about? Well, Sean Hollister is here from The Verge, spent a ton of time with the Steam Deck, and joins us to talk about it. Welcome back, Sean. It's good to have you back.
Hi, thanks for having me. How's it going?
It's going awesome, and even better to have you on today, so thank you. So first of all, let's start with kind of the promise of the Steam Deck. What is so different about this device that has had gamers really getting excited about the potential of it?
To talk about the Steam Deck, you really got to start talking about the Nintendo Switch. Today is actually the 5-year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch. Came out May 3rd of, 2017.
That blows my mind. I saw that headline today. I was like, no, it hasn't been 5 years.
5 years.
Crazy.
5 years.
Yeah.
And the thing the Switch did right away was it took this idea of you can play a big sprawling game and it let you do that on the go. And we'd had Game Boys before that. We'd had Nintendo DSs. We'd had a variety of competitors. But here was something, you can take your big games on the go like Zelda. You can then plug that into your TV, output that on a big screen, and it feels like a full console with full console controls, even though you can take it with you. And so what a bunch of gamers started doing, including myself, is they said, wow, this allows me to play a lot of games other places that I wouldn't be able to before. It gives me more time to play my games. I'm going to start asking companies to put games there. I'm going to wait to buy them until I can get them there. And that is great if you've got money to build a new Switch library, but let's say you've already got a gigantic library of PC games on Steam, the largest digital distribution platform for PC games. What if you could have a Nintendo Switch that is also a PC? And so that is what this Steam Deck is. And I almost just hit myself in the face with it. It's
Which wouldn't be too difficult
pounds.
because it's gigantic.
It's big. It's big. Let's actually show you that for a moment. So this is the original Nintendo Switch. And let me get the reflection off there. An original Nintendo Switch, and this is the Steam Deck.
Oh, wow!
And I can completely cover and basically fit the entire Switch into the grips of this thing because it is so much bigger.
Look,
it's much bigger than I thought.
Yeah,
it's portable. I mean, it's still portable though, right? And that's kind of the promise, right? Is that it is a portable device. It might be a little bit larger than the Switch, but you can still totally throw that in the backpack and have a gaming PC in a portable form factor. So you started your piece by acknowledging that you, on one hand, it's a dichotomy between being insanely fun. You enjoyed it, obviously, and a total mess. So, so talk a little bit about those stark differences.
Yes. So when you play games on this thing that are designed to work on a console and actually run on this system, and you just get into those games, most of them, when they work really well. And the controls just melt into my hands, and the speakers sound great, and the screen is pretty decent. And it's just right. It just feels right. And then when they don't work, which is very often, and when there are bugs that crop up, which was incredibly often during my review process, it's getting a little bit better. You're completely frustrated. Well, why am I beta testing this thing for Valve? And it's okay for me to beta test this thing for Valve, I guess, a little bit, because I'm a reviewer. I expect, I'm going to see some issues when I'm reviewing products, but they're selling this thing now. They're not. This isn't a preview of a device it's going out, months and months later. People are starting to get these in their hands already. They put down money for it. And the nice thing about this, one of the huge things going in the Steam Deck's favor, is that it's only $400 at the entry level, tops out at $650 for the highest end configuration. So it is not a lot of money compared to the amount of performance you're getting. And so I was jazzed during this review. Oh my gosh, I'm playing these games really well. It's like PS4 quality in the palm of my hand, palm of two hands that are very carefully holding this thing up above my head in bed so it doesn't land on my face, mind you. But yes, that's a lot of power to be carrying around with me, and way the heck more than the Switch. I mean, I've played games on this like The Witcher 3, which you can see side by side on a Switch and this console, and it's night and day how much more graphical quality you're getting compared to a Nintendo Switch. But the Nintendo Switch, you pop a game into it and it works every time. And the controls are just there and they work every time. And the deck, some games won't work because it's a Linux operating system on this console instead of Windows, where the games are based. And sometimes there are issues with the user interface, which it felt like they were changing every moment, right down to the review date, right down to our embargo date. We got multiple updates a day for this console. They would break new things when they were fixing old things. Sometimes I would pop in. One cool thing about the system is you can just swap in a new SD card full of games. So the Nintendo Switch, you put a cartridge in here, you get one game per cartridge unless you're willing to put all of your games on internal storage, download them, and buy them as digital games from the eShop. Here, you can pop in a micro SD card, and instead of one Nintendo Switch game, you get 12 PC games, or however many you fit on the SD card. I've got a 400 gigabyte SD card here, nearly doubling the size of the internal storage. Loads of games on it. It's great. But sometimes they just wouldn't show up. I'd pop the card in, the games would not be there. I'd have to restart the whole system.
Oh, that's bizarre. So some of these issues, as far as games either not working properly on the device, not appearing, I mean, is it safe to say that this is stuff that will be addressed by Valve going forward, so that, if you buy the Steam Deck in, say, 6 months or a year, it's more likely that like your entire library is going to work? Or is it just kind of the reality that some games at the end of the day are going to work here really well, and some games aren't going to work at all, and that's just kind of what you get for what they've created?
I would say that the compatibility they've already built is really impressive. I would say that 2/3 or more of the games that I have tried on this and wanted to work have worked. The exceptions are games that have anti-cheat software that isn't quite compatible with Linux, and they had to do some workarounds, and they're relying on developers to like implement those workarounds. There's some issues there, but the compatibility was already good during the review process. It's getting better. Some big games have been unlocked since my review. Like you can play Apex Legends on this system now. You can play Elden Ring, the brand new From Software game. Persona 4 Golden was a game that did not work on Linux versus the Windows compatibility layer for years. And all of a sudden, they said, okay, we know we're pushing out this piece of hardware. We want this to be a great experience. We know people care about that game. We're going to make that game work. And they did. And so that's happening. Valve says, and you can decide whether you believe them or not, but Valve says this is going to be a multi-generational thing. They want to not only improve this system, but they want to build out other portable game systems down the road, including, a Steam Deck 2. They haven't said the word Steam Deck 2, but they're basically saying we're going to build a Steam Deck 2. We're going to keep this going. We're going to let other companies freely use our software so they can build their own portables around this. They are invested at the end of the day in Steam, in having an ecosystem of games and having a storefront that generates a lot of revenue for them by selling games to you digitally. And they're threatened a little bit by the Nintendo Switch. The fact that I was not buying my games for PC anymore because I wanted to take them with me, now there's a way for them to do that. They can claw back that revenue stream.
That's huge. Yeah, that's a really great point right there. If you had to, name a game or two that you felt were like the shining example of this device proving itself, like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, this device can play this particular game, and that is amazing. It was enjoyable. It just worked. Like, what would a game or two be, out of your experience?
Let me give you 3 examples really quickly. Let's go high end and then like low end as well. So at the high end, this can play Elden Ring, which is a game that literally just came out. Yeah. It's a sprawling, epic adventure from the folks who brought us Dark Souls. It's this fantasy. It's great. The graphics are solid. It is a game that it's the kind of game that you would generally not be able to run on a very low end PC. You'd need to get a decent system, not a high end system, but a decent system to run this, and it plays here. Control is a game from, I believe, 2018. It's got all kinds of physics. It's got telekinesis, so you can pull objects out of the world and throw debris across things, and things will splinter everywhere as you're trying to navigate this mystery and this anyhow, it's a very, very mysterious, like sci-fi game where you're exploring this. Anyhow, so that works brilliantly well on here, but also some indie games. I was playing Into the Breach on here, which is a game that I typically only play in little bite-sized chunks. Now I'm playing it here all the time. I got sucked in for a couple hours. Vampire Survivors is an early access game that just recently came out on PC. It's the kind of game where I would used to say I'm going to wait for it to come out on Switch, and I just bought it here. And I'm like, okay, and now I'm just playing it on the deck. It's great.
Nice. Now, one of the other questions that I have, of course, is the quality of the controller. And not just the controller, but the fact that, most of these games that you're talking about, if they're made for the PC, it's pretty safe to say they're made for a much larger screen than what you have on a portable device. So a lot of the menus, the potentially the touch points, these things that we totally take for granted on a large screen, you shrink that down onto a small screen, and I'm sure that you run into unintentional issues as a result. So how is that part of the experience, both interacting with this large screen game on a smaller screen, and then also kind of the control mechanism? You're not using a mouse anymore. You're using a handheld controller. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to pull up an example while we talk, assuming it's still on here, because there's a great illustration of that. Okay, so here's this will take a moment, but I'm going to launch the original Portal, and I'm going to launch Into the Breach for you as a couple examples of this. And so basically, one of the important things going in here is that Valve wants you to be very aware of whether a game's going to run well on Steam Deck before you buy it, hopefully, before you spend the time downloading it even. So it's got some compatibility checkers in its library. And one of the things it looks for is explicitly whether the UI is going to be large enough. And so what they've been doing very recently, and this is very recently, since my review even, they've gone back and they've added higher resolution and also but larger user interfaces. I don't know if you can see that angle to so much of their games. This game did not used to have a menu with large text. This was designed for screens that'd be close to your face. They've done that with Portal. They've done that with Half-Life. The other thing is they will certify whether the default controls and the default graphics configurations will work on this. So the idea is, and this is not always true, in many cases it's not true, but for games that they have verified, the idea is that you will just install it, you'll buy it, you'll install it, you'll play it, and it'll just work. And there's some wiggle room there, and then they need to work on it more. There's some work that they need to do. But in many cases, it's true. But the other thing about this is you have a tremendous array of controls. So this thing has these touchpads, which are a carryover from the Steam controller, a failed, kind of a failed peripheral for them that they launched a number of years back with the Steam machines. It was a cult classic, and a lot of people glommed onto it because it had these amazing trackpads. And so what these are is they are a virtual trackball. I don't want to say a mouse because they don't act like a mouse. Like, you can fling these across the screen and you can feel the momentum of a virtual ball beneath your fingers because they have these linear actuators beneath them that can provide vibration and sensation. And it's not a lot. Like, you're not going to feel textures or anything like that, but you can feel that something is moving beneath it. Something is going on, and it's great. It's also got analog sticks on both sides now, D-pad and buttons. Not only triggers and bumpers like you'd find on an Xbox controller, but also these back buttons. I love to be able to just have those under my fingers, keep my thumbs on the sticks. I never have to take my thumbs off the sticks because I can just press these buttons and these buttons instead of reaching for the face buttons. That's super handy. And gyroscopic aiming is huge too. So in a lot of games, you're like, okay, well, if I want to get precision control over a cursor game, a point-and-click game, or a shooter, I'm going to have to move a joystick carefully with my Xbox controller and hope that the auto aim is good enough to get me in the right place. Well, here, not only do you have the touchpad for some of that accuracy to give you kind of a direct control over the cursor, but you can also have this gyroscopic aiming where if you just leave your thumb on the thumbstick or leave it on the touchpad, you can get the cursor to move around. I don't have it enabled in this game, but you can get the cursor to move around that way as well. So you just tilt the system various directions and for fine control over the cursor or the aiming reticle. Super handy.
Dang. Yeah, this thing, okay. I find myself, as you're talking about it, totally forgiving a lot of the negatives because it sounds like it promises and delivers a lot, even if it doesn't deliver everything.
Yeah. A lot more features than I expected. I didn't know that about the touchpads with the little actuators underneath. So it's clear that there was more thought put into it than just let's make a portable method of letting people play games. It's like, let's make a portable console for people to play games, but also let's think about very, very much think about the way that people use these different kinds of input methods and try to pack that all into one device. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think all the problems in the Steam Deck are solvable. The question is, how long is it going to take to solve them? Will Valve solve all of them with the first revision, the first hardware that people are buying? How long are they going to commit to this if it turns out not to be a success? Now, they're saying, they're shipping tens of thousands, that they might be, I think there's some suggestion they might have sold in the million already. We don't have firm data on that. But, if it's a success, of course, they'll want to keep going with it and make sure that, people are taken care of. If it isn't, though, I would still say that Valve's track record is decent. The Steam controller and the Steam Link, which was an HDMI streaming puck that they released a number of years back, those kept getting updates. I think that the Link might still be getting updates after it was clear they weren't going to be a success, after they stopped going on sale. They sold out of these things, and they were like, okay, we believe in this. We're going to keep supporting it. We're going to keep pushing out new fixes and features. So decent track record. Then again, if you look at the desktop version of Steam, it has a lot of power user features in this platform that people are using to launch their games on PC, but it's also very messy and has been for a very long time. I think Valve cares a little bit more in general about power users than they do about creature comforts, pick up and play, it just works kind of mentality. And so this is a bit of a change for them to say that they're doing that, and I'm eager to see if they follow through.
Yeah, interesting. I'm so happy that we were able to bring you on today. This was fascinating, and I think we'll go a long way. Your review and others go a long way to, obviously illustrating the downsides, but illustrating the potential and why a device like this needs to exist. So I want to thank you for coming on with us today. Sean Hollister is Senior Reports Editor at The Verge. You're awesome, Sean. Where can people follow you online?
Yeah, I'm at verge.com. I'm at Starfire2258 on Twitter.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Sean. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.
Thanks so much. Up next, Twitter sort of kind of rolls out its fact-checking features to more people. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by IT Pro TV. You know IT Pro TV. Are you thinking about getting your CCNA certification? Well, having your CCNA shows you're knowledgeable in networking fundamentals, in IP services, in security fundamentals, automation, and programmability. IT Pro TV has the classes and skills you need in everything Cisco. The month of March is dedicated to Cisco at IT Pro TV, so you can check out their free weekend. That's from March 19th to the 20th, which includes courses Cisco CCT Routing and Switching, Cisco CCNA, Cisco Cyber Ops Associates, Cisco CCNP Enterprise, Encore, Cisco CCNP Enterprise NRC, that's ENARSI, and Cisco CCNP Security Score, that's SCOR, and last, Cisco CCNP Security SNCF, Cisco Certified DevNet Associate. There are lots of letters in those different courses, but if you know anything about Cisco, then you're going, oh yeah, I need that one, I need that one, I need that one. All of those available from March 19th through the 20th. You can learn and get certified in IT in a way that works with your schedule, and what's awesome is that it keeps it entertaining. IT Pro TV has 7 studios, and they film Monday through Friday. Their courses go from the studio to their course library in 24 hours, and they make sure you're prepared for your exams with their virtual labs and their practice tests. You won't want to miss IT Pro TV's 2 March webinars either. It includes the March 10th webinar at 2 p.m. Eastern titled Avoid Cisco Exam Traps, the 3 most difficult CCNA objectives, which is hosted by Wes Bryan. And March 24th, you can check out the Cisco NAAS webinar featuring Anthony Sequeira. So check those out for sure. And don't forget, your IT team needs to level up and enjoy the journey. So check out an IT Pro TV business plan for your team today. Visit itpro.tv/TNW for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription when you use the code TNW30. That's itpro.tv/TNW and use code TNW30 for an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this week's episode of Tech News Weekly and for prepping people for that Cisco career. Thank you so much. All right, so Twitter back in early January of 2021, it was they announced it on January 25th of 2021. They came out with this feature called Birdwatch. Birdwatch was a set of features that would allow individuals who use Twitter to be able to go in and sort of fact check tweets. So what would happen is you find a tweet and it maybe doesn't have all the context that you think that the tweet should have. Someone can go on to that tweet and sort of add notes to it, pin some notes to it and say, hey, Here's why I think that this needs some more information. So an example would be someone saying, white chocolate is chocolate. That is the answer. And then I would go on there and say, as a bird watcher, I would clip a note to that from like the International Chocolate Association that says white chocolate is not chocolate because it contains no cocoa solids and therefore it is not a chocolate. That's some context. Then someone who's a liar might come on there and share a link from some goof who says that white chocolate is a chocolate because it has the word chocolate in the title. Obviously, I'm very right in that situation, and the other person is very wrong. But there are some things.
Obviously, you feel strongly about this.
I feel very strongly about this.
But you're right.
Thank you. But there are some examples, of course, that have much more clarity. And what's nice is that there's actually and I'm trying to find it now. I think anybody can go to the birdwatch.twitter.com, I think is what it is. And it will let you kind of see overall and I'm trying to make sure that that's what it is. There is a way to go and
that takes you there, I believe. Twitter.com/i/birdwatch is what it resolves to.
Yes, perfect. So this gives you some examples of different tweets that have gone out where people have left comments. So one example is recently Vice President Kamala Harris was talking to a group of kindergartners about Ukraine and Russia, and there was a very simplified explanation of Ukraine and Russia and what's going on there. And that quote was taken out of context to give people, it seemed as if she was saying that to just everybody in this very simple quote. And so someone added some notes to kind of clarify. One person said, this lacks context. Kamala Harris was visiting a kindergarten and was asked by the teacher to explain a complex political issue to 6-year-olds, and she did well. Someone left a note on that to talk about how this was actually part of a response to a layperson who was asking the question. And it also included a link to kind of give more information about that. So basically, it gives people the ability to learn a little bit more about a thing rather than taking that first bit of knowledge. And I think that's super important when it comes to the way that we as humans kind of absorb information. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is you read something at some point and you lose the original context for that factoid, that bit of data, but you hold on to that bit of data. And so you go on and you may tell other people it and forget kind of where you got that data point, what the situation was when you were reading about it. And so that is a way that misinformation, and remember we talked about the difference between misinformation and disinformation. Mm-hmm. Misinformation is spreading falsehoods, but not with the intention of spreading falsehoods. You believe it's true.
You see a thing, you're like, I need to retweet that.
Yes,
and you retweet it without
people.
Thinking, and you don't realize that you're spreading false information.
Whereas disinformation is purposely spreading false information. You know it's not true, but you spread it anyway. So that can be very helpful with that. Twitter recently, and this is the news story, the new part of it, where Twitter has now, after having this in a pilot program for so long, gone and made available, not Birdwatch itself, because you had to sign up for Birdwatch if you wanted to be a part of it, and then they let some people in to kind of join the group of people who were going in and tagging these tweets and leaving notes. But what they're doing right now is they opened up those notes to a random group of people in the United States. So there are, and I'm trying to find now where it is, the number of people that they are opening it. It says, starting today, a small and randomized group of people on Twitter in the U.S. will see Birdwatch notes directly on some tweets. They'll also be able to rate those notes, providing input that will help Birdwatch's ability to add context that is helpful from different points of view. So what's important to understand is that this is not adding more people to Birdwatch. This is not more people being able to go in and add notes. This is simply letting those notes be seen by more people so that they can get the context there. So, all very interesting. I did sign up.
I just signed up. I was able to sign up right now.
Nice. I signed up originally for it to be one of those fact checkers, just because occasionally there are times where you go, oh yeah, I'd love to add some context to that. And so there is an option to join, and then they will notify you should you be included. They will... This is interesting because it's not just an automated process. There is some kind of investigation that takes place to get an understanding of who you are based on how you tweet and what information you've shared in the past, et cetera. But this whole conversation led me to think about something that I have seen a lot more recently than I ever have. And I believe it was even just last week on this show, and it may have been 2 weeks ago, but the week where we talked to Mark Gurman about the Amazon Astro robot and how...
that was last week.
Yeah, last week. So we talked to Mark Gurman of Bloomberg about the Amazon Astro robot and how some people... asked to be part of this process. So you would go on to Amazon's Day One Editions page, sign up, and then later Amazon would invite you to purchase the product and then be able to have it before anyone else. And one of the things that Mark had talked about, he's like, look, these folks, in many cases, they buy the product and they may not, because the whole idea is that you get the product and then you send Amazon feedback so they can get an idea of what it's like, what works, what doesn't. But they had to buy the product in the first place. It wasn't that it was given to them in exchange for providing feedback. You have to buy it. And they also expect you to provide feedback for it.
It's like you have to do the work after you pay the money.
Exactly. And so there is sort of a trend of these companies, and this isn't, and I want to be clear, this isn't an exact comparison here because you're not buying anything with this example, but a really interesting comparison in tech companies in tech companies where they have users who are paying customers doing the work without pay. And it's like, it's sort of in the vein of having this sort of volunteer experience. Mm-hmm. It's, you get to, or the exclusive experience in the case of Amazon. You have to buy the product, but then they want you to do the work of being a tester for it. In this case, Twitter has over and over again been criticized for its poor handling of misinformation, the spread of misinformation, and also bullying and all of that kind of stuff, the abuse that exists on the platform. And so they've offered this potential solution, but it's left on the users of the platform to do these things and to make this possible. And I find it really interesting how we continue to see this and see this kind of climb of companies going, yeah, we'd like for you to do this. And there are enough people out there that want to volunteer, that want to do it and are okay with that. But it does make you kind of go, is this right? Is this sort of something that Twitter should be doing itself, like should hire its own employees to do this? Or is the idea that we value this service enough that it's sort of this community built service that everybody is in on making it? But the problem there is that, well, there are some people who are getting paid, to keep Twitter afloat, the developers and the folks who work for Twitter. And so should it not be their job, given that they're paid to do it, versus someone out in the world who is doing this thing? So I'm curious about your thoughts on that, because you just signed up for it. I signed up for it. I'm okay doing it. I just think as a whole, I do have that question of like, is this right? Should we be doing this, or should this be something that Twitter should do, given that it serves ads to us and makes money off of us as users? Then it's also asking us to fix its platform. Yeah.
Who's going to do this? Of all the people that sign up, there's going to be a smaller percentage of people that actually do something with that. And there's actually also some kind of like self-education that comes out of something like this in particular, right? Whether it's right or wrong for Twitter to do it, it does enable people to kind of like flex that muscle of critical thinking around this stuff. And I think there's some...
What's the term that...
a sift.
Sift, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it definitely gives people an opportunity to, and a reason and almost an assignment to practice that.
Yeah.
Whether Twitter should be paying for it, people to do this internally or not, that's at least, I suppose, a silver lining as far as that's concerned. But what comes to mind for me, because I'm an Android guy and, I've followed Google for however long, is just the fact that I'm beat down on this to a certain degree because, man, Google's been doing this forever, right? Like Google has been releasing products and services and everything and it's a very developer-driven company.
Yeah.
And so they do it under the guise of, yes, nothing's perfect. You're going to help us beta test this.
Gmail was in beta for years.
Exactly. And we all were okay with it because it gave us early access, or we kind of feel special.
Yes,
we feel special. And that ends up being a part of the trade-off, right?
Yeah.
Like when I went to this URL and saw the join thing, I was like, oh, I can join. Okay, I will. I put no thought into whether I was going to actually contribute or anything. Of course, I'm also doing a show, so I'm thinking about other things. But I immediately jumped on board because I was like, well, I've got the opportunity, so of course I will. And so I don't know. That's what kind of comes.
Is it
up
a
to
dark pattern? The psychology of the join button, the psychology of the exclusivity. And
totally. I think there's something to that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the part where I do feel a little bit because time is the one thing. Except for the time traveler that exists somewhere in this world. It's like, not for me, but for everybody else, time is the one thing we can't get back. And so people are spending their time doing this. And there is a part of me that feels kind of weird about a company that is making money off of us in all of these other ways, having us then do this work. But you're so right. For me, the value that I would get from something like this is I just love learning new things in general.
Sure.
And so if I can take that drive that I have to learn new things and also help other people, in theory, get the actual truth of a situation, then that's value to me.
Yeah.
It works for me in that way.
For sure. And if you are in this case, if you are a big time Twitter user, as a Twitter user, I want the platform to improve.
Yes.
I want it to be better. So this is an opportunity, I suppose. Again, is it an opportunity? I don't know.
Join the club.
For some, this will be an opportunity for them to actually to learn a little something about their own usage of Twitter and also improve the platform that they love so much, or that they use so much.
Twitter, send me a Birdwatch membership jacket, and suddenly I'm like, okay, I'm good.
They'll give you an octagonal profile photo so you can feel special.
Yes, exactly. Oh, boy.
Right on. Well, up next, I'm going to review these little guys, the OnePlus Buds Z2 wireless earbuds. I've been testing these out for a little while, and so I want to give you my thoughts on them. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Progress. Progress has been enabling enterprise experiences for decades and has assembled the technologies that are going to empower businesses to thrive in a post-COVID world. Kind of where we're headed right now. Most companies don't have the resources to invest in technology as digital Goliaths. They actually need to use technology to create differentiation with a smaller investment, and they can achieve this by turning to Progress as their trusted provider. With Progress, any organization can actually achieve the level of differentiation that is critical in today's business environment. Whether you happen to be an IT professional who's concerned about networking and infrastructure, security and compliance, or enabling web and digital experiences, Progress has a solution for you. And they've got a number of them. MoveIt Managed File Transfer is one of them. It provides control, security, and visibility over all file transfer activities. Transferring confidential data through insecure channels actually opens up your organization to liabilities. Well, with a managed file transfer solution, you can gain insight into who has access to your files, if the file was accessed, and when. Other solutions include WhatsUp Gold Network Monitoring. This allows you to monitor networks, applications, and devices both in the cloud and on premises. There's Kemp Loadmaster Load Balancer. This is a next generation load balancing and application delivery solution for private, public, and hybrid cloud. Flowmon Network Intelligence, which is a network performance monitoring and network detection and response solution. And then finally, Sitefinity Digital Experience Platform. This is so that you can build digital experiences across channels that improve business agility and foster personal relationships with visitors. Progress has the technology that you need to secure, analyze, and integrate your applications, your network, and your processes. You can find more and download a free trial at progress.com/twit. You don't want to miss out. Visit progress.com/twit for your very own Progress swag bag. Thank you so much to Progress for their support of this show. So I have here the OnePlus Buds Z2. OnePlus sent me a pair of these for review. I actually have them inside the case here, and I've been using these for a while. I've over the last several years used so many Bluetooth wireless earbuds, and so I'm always curious to kind of see where we're at, where the trends are heading. And these are only $100, so these are pretty inexpensive in the realm of wireless.
Comparison.
Yeah, I mean, you could go on to Amazon and you could find like $20, $30, $50 earbuds. But what you're going to get for $100 here, you're going to get some of the features that we're starting to see in the top of the line earbuds, things like active noise cancellation.
Okay.
So for $100, you get ANC on these earbuds. One thing to consider, though, is that some of the features that you get out of these are only available on OnePlus devices. So they're only available when you're paired with a OnePlus device. And it's not that that's abnormal. Apple does this with AirPods. There's certain features that work between an iPhone and AirPods. Samsung does this with their buds as well. But so OnePlus is kind of doing the same thing here. And I'll name some of those. But you can kind of see, I always like to start with a case because the case is, you interact with it so often, right? And I kind of like that it's like a long, slender type case instead of a really big, thing that is going to fit strangely into your pocket. My one kind of criticism is that it's so slippery. Like it
does look super sleek and slippery. Yeah.
It is, and like getting it open sometimes. And I mean, even the earbuds are kind of like a shiny plastic. But it took me a while to kind of like when I have it in my ear like this, and then I go to put it in here. It took me a while to kind of get the. It sounds so petty, but get this like wrist flip action to get it to fit in there properly, but it snaps in with the magnet nicely and everything. The case itself is IPX4 rated, so that basically is just like splashing water, essentially, which is probably all you really need on a case. You do have the USB-C charging port in the back. It is not wireless charging supported, but again, any of those like. It doesn't have this, it doesn't have that. Consider that you're spending $100.
Yes. I'm just glad it's USB-C and not micro USB.
Totally, so. Yeah. And OnePlus has been doing that with their recent, with their earbuds for a couple of years now, thankfully. They've been pretty good on the transition to USB-C. The bud design themselves, I mean, I feel like, I haven't used an AirPods Pro, but I feel like they have a very similar kind of footprint to the AirPods Pro. I have used some of their previous, the OnePlus Buds Z before them, and this stem was definitely a little bit longer. So they've shortened the stem. Any of the interaction that you're going to do with this earbud is done on this flat surface right here. So, tap to do different things, which is fine, except that there is no volume control on the tap controls. And I don't know, do the AirPods have volume control on the touch? The AirPods Pro, the stem it has a little force sensor in it, so you squeeze it. It just does play, pause, and then you can tap and hold to trigger Siri. Now, I am curious, is it capacitive touch or is it vibration? What is it that actually is working there on the side? What makes it? Oh, yeah, it's a capacitive touch surface.
Because I don't like, there are...
this is the AirPods Pro, I believe. So, the stem, look at the stem,
and
is almost identical.
The former AirPods, before the AirPods Pro came, they had that. Or actually, I can't remember if it was them, but there are several pairs of headphones where it is sort of a... I think it's a little accelerometer or something inside, so you have to make it move. But when you do that against your ear, you can hear every single bop, bop, bop as you're trying to make the sound.
Well, and not only that, these things fit into your ear canal. Any sort of movement kind of shakes that loose,
Exactly.
you know, and some earbuds are resilient to that sort of thing. Others, you don't want to, you know, once you have it firmly in place, you really don't want to mess with it as far as that's concerned. So yeah, I mean, the touch sensitivity is fine. I've used buds that do allow for volume control enough so that I'm really used to it. And so when I don't have access to that, even in the settings, which there is an app that you can use to kind of customize some of the touch controls and everything, but you can't set volume control as a function, and that is something that I totally would set up if I had the ability. So I guess I knock it, but apparently, you know, I just assumed that the AirPods could do that. But
They're very into you using Siri for things, so you can say,
Got it.
set the volume to 75 or turn up the volume. turn
yeah,
down the volume.
that's something you can do.
Wait, what?
What's that? That's something that you can do.
Scooter X in the chat. Am I wrong, Anthony? I didn't think you could adjust volume with your AirPods
If you
Pro.
could, then that's news to me also.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, we might have a
Maybe
link in chat
the
that-
support document says use Siri to adjust the volume.
Well, you look that up. The buds themselves are IP55 rated, so that's water resistance, dust resistance, and you know, I was pretty active with these. Went for some jogs, which is kind of a test that I like to do with earbuds to see, okay, do they jostle loose? Do I have the right size and everything? And you know, so if you're sweating, if you're out, you know, jogging in the rain, you're not going to have any issues with these. And I thought that was fine. It also has the automatic ear detection, so you remove it from your ear.
That's nice.
It pauses. That's pretty sweet.
That's an important feature.
Sound, of course. Oh, and by the way, one of the OnePlus only features of these is instant pairing. So, which I didn't really have a problem pairing these to my Pixel 6, which is the device that I primarily use them with. But you have that nonetheless if you have a OnePlus device. Sound, of course, is really important with earbuds, right? And you know, another OnePlus only feature is Dolby Atmos support.
Okay.
So if you are into that, which I'm not really, I haven't really, you know, explored that whole avenue very much. But if you are, you will need a OnePlus device to do that. Sound shaping, you do not get any sort of EQ or anything in the app, which I always find
interesting.
that to be a really big downside on earbuds.
I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, me too.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a firmware update at some point that would allow that.
Yeah, eventually. I kind of, again, that's a feature that I think I take for granted because I feel like EQ is really easy to do.
Yeah.
But you don't get that. And I have even updated, you know, the firmware and everything to its most recent and not available yet. But the sound itself, you know, I would say it was okay. Like, keep in mind, again, these are $100 earbuds, right? Sound quality really emphasizes the low end, which you see a lot on kind of the lower end to mid-range earbuds, right? They want to like hype certain frequencies to make them, or they think, to make them sound better. And what you end up getting out of these are an emphasized low end. The mid and high end, and particularly the mid, I just found it to be kind of a little papery, a little kind of flat. You know, I listened to a good amount of music, and it was never, my listening experience was never like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you get that right sound and you're like, yes, this sounds amazing. And I just didn't get that with these. But again, $100. So there you go. Yes, I mentioned the noise the noise canceling, active noise canceling, ANC is another word for that. And the original Buds Z did not have that. So now with this upgraded Buds Z2, you do get the active noise cancellation. You have 2 steps of active noise cancellation. If you have their Pro headphones, you get 3 steps. And I would say the quality is a little better there. Here, I mean, it's fine. Like it does the job. But I mean, I've certainly heard better, you know, absolutely. Again, $100. I tended to use the more aggressive setting all the time. And of course, when you're doing that, you know, your battery is depleting. So keep that in mind. I was able to get around 4 to 5 hours of battery on these with ANC active. I almost always use ANC on. So you get probably closer to 6 to 7 without that. So you get obviously longer battery life if you're not using the ANC. But, you know, 4 to 5 hours, there's better out there than that. but I'm rarely ever listening to something longer than 4 to 5 hours anyways.
Yeah,
so
they usually end up right back in the case before that happens.
Totally. And then, the case, I think, adds another 20 hours, if not more, if you don't use ANC. So yeah, that's kind of it. Overall, the OnePlus Buds Z2, I'd say, know what you're getting. $100 is not that expensive. And if you're looking on Amazon for the cheap, like $50, $60 earbuds, I'd probably recommend, if you have the extra $40 to just plunk it. But I've also used a lot of earbuds that are better in the $150, $200 range. That price difference, it feels easy for me to say, oh, it's just $50 more. I totally get price sensitivity.
Exactly.
Not everybody can do that.
Yep.
So you got to buy what you can. But definitely in this category of devices, if you can plunk down a little bit more, you're usually going to really notice the difference. You're going to hear the difference in the sound quality, and maybe you're going to get wireless charging out of the case, that sort of stuff. So yeah,
nice.
So there you go.
Do they come in any other colors? I don't remember if you said that.
No. I believe it's just black. I could be wrong on that, actually.
Black and white, it looks like.
Buds Z2. Oh, there you go. Okay, so you've got a white option as well, but they are all very shiny. So
definitely shiny, slippery,
shiny and slippery.
You might want to buy some of those things you put in the bottom of a bathtub. Just stick one of those on the top and on the bottom.
Oh boy, how do you take your new earbuds and make them ugly? You get a bathtub stomp pad and wrap it on. So there you go, Buds Z2. And thank you to OnePlus for sending me these for review. Appreciate it. All right, I think we've done it. We've reached the end of this episode of Tech News Weekly. We do this each and every week here at twit.tv. Just go to twit.tv/TNW. Every Thursday, we publish a new episode. When you go to that page, you can subscribe in all the different ways, including jumping out to YouTube if that's your preference. But we've got them all there, twit.tv/TNW.
Yes, and if you'd like to get all of our shows ad-free, if you'd like to support us directly, then you can do that by checking out Club Twit. twit.tv/clubtwit for $7 a month. You get every single one of Twit's shows with no ads. Super awesome. You also get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else. I'm very excited to be doing a new series about once a month where I am talking to the non-hosts here at Twit. So it's going to be a chance to get to know the folks behind the scenes that are doing things. That will publish in the Twit Plus bonus feed, as well as be able for folks to tune in live on the Discord server. Well, that is a great place to go and chat with your fellow Club Twit members. If you are wondering what the heck is a Discord server, if you've used Slack or Microsoft Teams, it's a lot like that. You go in, you can chat with your fellow Club Twit friends, and then those of us here at Twit as well. My co-host on iOS Today, Rosemary Orchard, is one of the most active people in the Discord. It's super awesome. All of that, $7 a month, super fun. And if you'd like to support a show directly and get that ad-free experience, you can do that if you use Apple Podcasts. Just open the Apple Podcasts app, look for Tech News Weekly, find the audio version of the feed. You'll see a button where you can subscribe for $2.99 a month. You'll get that ad-free version. If you want to tweet at me or follow me online, I'm at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network. You can check me out this Saturday. I'll be back in the studio for the Tech Guy.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Woo! And next week, be sure to tune in live on Tuesday for a whole day where we've got iOS Today at 8 a.m. Pacific instead of 9 a.m. Pacific. Followed by that will be the Apple event where Leo and I will cover that. And then afterwards, you can watch Leo and the crew for MacBreak Weekly. So Tuesday's bound to be a pretty awesome
Tuesday.
day. A very Apple-y Tuesday. What about you, Jason Howell?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell, doing other shows on the network like All About Android, twit.tv/AAA. And yeah, that's really about it. Those are the important things. Always want to thank everybody who helped us do this show each and every week. Of course, Burke was in here scooching around some monitors mid-show. Anthony is here in place of John Ashley this week. So Anthony, thank you for TDing and editing the show. And always thanks to you for watching and listening. We'll see you next week on Tech News Weekly. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
We can finally do that.
It happened. Wow.
Did you spend a lot of money on your brand new smartphone and then you look at the pictures on Facebook and Instagram and you're like, what in the world happened to that photo? Yes, you have. I know. It happens to all of us. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands On Photography, where I'm going to walk you through simple tips and tricks that are going to help make you get the most out of your smartphone camera or your DSLR or mirrorless, whatever you have. And those shots are going to look so much better. I promise you. So make sure you're tuned in to twit.tv/hop for Hands On Photography to find out more.